Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey, friend, welcome back to the podcast. Happy Friday. I hope you have big plans for the weekend. I hope you are celebrating this shift in the season, although it's not in the stars yet. We know in the calendar, the beginning of June is full of so much goodness and this trigger of all things summer, which is so fun. We are in the beautiful beginnings of peony season. We've got the coral sunsets are showing off. They're so fun. Take a look at my Instagram stories if you want to see the goodness, but these particular blooms are so beautiful. They start bright and coral, and then as they're in the vase, they fade to a pale yellow, just like a sunset. They're just amazing, and I'm just so delighted with the creation that I get to surround myself with. And I would love to invite you into the beautiful, magical wonderland that is the Phineas Wright House. I have a few weeks left of creative in residence opportunities. So if you have been looking for some space where you are inspired to start your book or finish your book, work on that TEDx talk, plan your new business launch, learn a new language, write that beautiful opera that's in your heart, whatever it is, you want to paint, you want to take photos, whatever creative urge is bursting inside of you, I would love to hold beautiful sacred space for that. So while I'm traveling in France, living out all of my fun dreams, I would love to offer you a spot at the Phineas Wright House. We have 1 and 2 week sessions still available for our creative in residence. So the link is in the show notes. You can get all the information there, but I would love to have you find the beautiful inspiration that I do every day here at the Phineas Wright House. Okay. Today's guest, she is so fun. And in fact, since this conversation, we have had many conversations on her radio show. So we will link some of those down in the show notes as well if you decide that you cannot get enough of Kathleen Conner. She has spent the last 16 years building the perfect life that was perfectly wrong for her. And at 53, she hit rock bottom, losing herself to roles like the good employee, the perfect mother, the people pleaser. That awakening led to her transformation, losing 47 pounds, getting sober, and reclaiming her identity. Today, Kathleen helps women stop performing their lives and start living them. With a mix of candor, humor, and empathy, she shares raw stories of being successful yet miserable, helpful yet depleted, and needed yet lost, while offering women a way to align head, heart, and soul so they can finally live lives that feel as good as they look. I know you are going to love this conversation with Kathleen Conner. Kathleen, I'm so excited about this conversation already. We've been chatting and finding out that we have so much in common that I'm sure that will continue for the recorded portion as well. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm super excited. And I was excited prior to our little tidbit of conversation and getting to know each other. But I do feel there's a kindred spirit here that there is a bond of not only where we've been, but also where we are today and where we're headed. So I appreciate your time.
Yes. And I know this will be your experience as a podcast host yourself, that the people that just find their way to your calendar are gorgeous, aligned conversations. I think it's like the best form of speed dating. On
Right.
some recording days, I'll have 5 conversations in a row, and it's like I can just drop right in and be. It's as if we've known each other forever, and it's just a beautiful opportunity to reflect and foster these deep connections that we have, even if we've only just met in, that we know of, but that
Right.
it's our life experience that checks so many boxes for each other. We have more in common than we have different.
Right. I believe, and it made me think of it as you were speaking that, there's a vibrational or energetic or magnetic pull that when you're at a specific level, you draw other people or other things with you with, like, people use the term like-minded and it's so trendy, but I also think it's not necessarily the thoughts, because you want to have creativity and differences with your thoughts and your language, but it's the feeling, it's the vibration, and it's the energy. And I think that's why we feel so connected, is because we're at the same baseline, emotional baseline, right?
Yes. And I think that's so interesting that you mentioned the differentiation between thoughts, because our magnet, it's always on. So
Right.
if the circumstances that are coming our way don't seem to match what we say we want, that's because the thoughts and our vibration, our magnet, is not as matched as we think it is. But we
Right.
can see around us how are things working out for us, tells us what our energy is saying, what we are magnetizing toward us. It's always a match. So if we're not
Right.
happy with what the experience is, what needs to be adjusted, I think sometimes we think, well, if that person would just act better, then I could respond better and everything would be great. But it's the work is ours. And then, even if that person is still in our experience, we're going to have the better parts of them that interact with us rather than the unfortunate parts.
Yeah, right. I mean, we're going to keep the matches, right? I mean, and it's okay to be and recognize that some people aren't a match to us. Like I always say, like, you have a similar personality than I, and a similar energy that we just talked about. Like we have a lot of friendlies, we have a lot of associations and a lot of associates and colleagues. And so I call them friendlies because
Yes.
we're always nice, we're always good, we're always engaging. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're my friends, right? We all have that trusted core group. Maybe it's one, maybe it's five, three, whatever it is, of people that we know we can go to, that won't judge, that we're safe with, that we can be vulnerable with. But it has to start with us. Your emotional baseline has to start with you and has to be recognized, like, okay, I get this person, I understand them, and more importantly, I respect them. It doesn't mean I have to be convinced by their approach or their language, but I at least can call them a friendly,
Right. And that's so interesting too, because my previous guest was talking about being a recovering people pleaser and recovering perfectionist. And, I personally had a very strong desire until, I don't know, 4 years ago, of like, it was very important to me that people liked me.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. And as I was a wedding planner for 30 years, and was very fun to work with the bride and groom and their families. But then as, you know, it widens a bit and the guests actually come, I could identify with ease the most difficult person in the room. And I made it my goal to win them over. Not sure why. That was very subconscious programming to, if I can make the hardest person like me, everybody else is a shoo-in.
Right.
And then, of course, as I've learned that like someone else's opinion of me is none of my business, and
Right.
that I was wasting my energy, splitting my energy by focusing on this other person's experience when I actually have very little, if not zero, influence in their experience. And so reminding myself it is healthy to own my experience and to let everybody else own theirs as well.
Right. I think we constantly look for that instant gratification of being liked, right? And so there's so much pressure with, with social media to, get the like button or to be in a social image or social optics, that we're so concerned about what we're showing everybody that we forget what we're feeling. And I just am preparing for next week's podcast. And part of it is that, everybody wants their house to be perfect. That everybody wants the outside, everybody wants when people drive by, ooh, look at the manicured lawn, look at the freshly painted, look at the, the thing on the door, all of that type of stuff. But, a lot of times those houses can be perfect and black mold can be growing inside behind the walls. And I think that people forget that we want to put ourselves on this pedestal that we're so important and our legacy is this character, this value, this honor, that really no one cares. I mean, people, the people that talk about anybody else shouldn't, first of all, and they only do for what, 5 minutes? But you're not that important. We're not that, and I don't mean you and as in you,
No, no, no.
Wendy, but we're not the general, like we're not as important as we think we are in other people's lives. Like that's just so shallow in my opinion. And I know we think that, and I think that as well, or thought that years ago, that it was my duty to present and to have this image of being the perfect, the people pleaser or the perfect wife or the good mother. And, it just gets to the point where it feels fake. And I think you need aha moments, and maybe a lot of them. You keep skinning our knees and hitting our heads on the wall before we say, you know what, I need to live my life for me. And I know I'll disappoint people. I know I'll disappoint those, people that are looking to say like, well, wait a minute, that's not who I thought she was. Or what is that decision about? But if I'm doing it for the, you don't want to do anything harsh, certainly, but if I'm doing it for my own, gut, I guess, the alignment of the head, heart, and gut, and your listeners and viewers know that that's the most important thing is get your mind, your facts, your thoughts. Don't let overthink and get super anxious before you do anything. And then your heart about like, how do I feel about this, and recognize that sometimes I do feel anxious and sometimes I do feel afraid, and be okay with that, and move down to your gut and your instincts and say, okay, let's get them aligned. And that's who you are, is when you have perfect alignment. That's
Right.
things are that things work.
Yes. And we've been talking a lot about this on the podcast and practicing unconditional alignment,
Mm.
where I don't need everything around me working in a certain way before I can feel good.
Right. And I look at it, and during my conversations, I do try to do a visual because that's how I learn. Everybody learns differently, like auditory or visual. And I, tend to want to see things so that I can feel things. So I look at it as, your brain, your mind, those are your thoughts, the facts, not maybe some assumptions, but you at least have to recognize that they're assumptions. And then your heart, where your feelings are, and then, your gut. And I point to, basically, but that's your intuition. That's your grounded sense. It's not your feet. That's what you're rooted. Your grounded sense is in your intuition. And I use the example of when things are aligned between your head, heart, and gut, you feel it. You just have this I don't know, it's like an empowerment. It's like an unstoppable feeling, and not in a cocky, egotistical way. It's in a, I got it. I know what that feeling's like. And you don't, hopefully you can stay there forever. But if you waver off, you can just say, oh, that's me overthinking. That's me being anxious, and usually your gut's always right. Or, but sometimes it's the one we listen to the least because it doesn't have the thoughts around it or the emotions around it. There's no facts or emotions there. It's just that feeling of, and you still, but if things have to start as a thought, go to what you want to do or what you love to do, and then what you need to do down below.
Oh, I like that. I have not heard it stated that way. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. And so when you think about it, if you're in a situation, and your viewers as well, your listeners, if they're in a situation and they're trying to make a decision, or any decision, even it doesn't have to be a huge one, even a day to day dealing with someone who, you get a call or an email home from your son's or daughter's school, and you just have to stop yourself from reacting and get your head, heart, and gut aligned before you do that. And you'll react or not from a better place.
Right. And then thank you for saying that, because I just had a similar experience today. I have a 12-year-old, and I co-parent her with her dad, and we have different ways of everything. And this is included. And it's interesting to witness, because I see that, there's a tendency to restrict access to something rather than redirect. And as I was thinking, like, it's obvious I'm going to do it a different way. That's why we're not married anymore. I'm also doing that a different way. But the epiphany that I had for me that was really helpful is that oftentimes when I'm speaking to her, I would like more information. And I say, I want to understand what's happening so that I can, because I like to take in information and then see how I feel and then check my intuition and then make a decision. But in this case, I believe that my job is to support her. So I don't want to ask her to help me understand. I want to ask her, how can I support you? How can I give you what you need? I don't need her to manage my experience of this uncomfortable situation that she's going through. And it feels really good to recognize what work is mine to do, and to also model for her that I don't need her to give me an answer that makes me feel better about what she's doing or experiencing.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh.
I mean, we're never going to raise our children with someone from outside of our own family nucleus. I mean, because they have a different lifestyle and different parents that they were raised with. So we can't expect them, our partners or our husbands, wives, or whomever, to have the same viewpoints because they came from a different background. So we have to recognize that, unless, and I wouldn't want to raise a child with my brother, that's for
Right.
sure. That's the old me. We're all changing. But, you still don't like the views, and you were, even though you're raised in the same family at the same time frame, we still had different experiences. I have a 13-year-old son. So again, a commonality there with you as well. And I think it's important as parents that, we ask and do checkpoints, because we forget to just, even when there's not a conflict. I mean, I drive him all over, as you do, and every parent who doesn't have a driving teenager. And I love that time together. I will miss it when he does get his license, because I hear a lot and spend a lot of time. But I do often ask him, hey, how are you doing? How can I be better as a mom? What can I give to you to support you more emotionally? And how can I, what challenges do you have? And, a 13-year-old boy, especially, and again, I don't know your daughter, but I was a teenager girl, and they don't want to he roll his eyes and he'll huff and puff, at me like, Mom, I don't want to talk to you. But then within a couple of minutes, he'll say, oh, yeah, this happened at school. It's not about me. He won't say, Mom, I need you to do this or I need you to do that. But he'll tell me a story and I can hear where he's struggling or where there could be a situation of a missed opportunity. And then he and I can talk about that. So I think we tend to, as parents, because of how we were raised, I know we either raise our children exact polar opposites as we were raised because we didn't get the things that we needed, or we raised them, or a lot of people raised them exactly like we were raised. And I think there's a combination of both, that we can take the good things from our childhood and then we can sprinkle in the growth that we had and the things that we thought we were missing and doing it differently. I don't think it's when I was a kid, I was raised this way, or my father would never talk to me that way, and you shouldn't talk to me that way, and all that. All that's going to come up because it's familial. It's familiar. It's our family. It's our pattern. And the
Yep.
only way things break where they do things differently, our children, is if we break the pattern within ourselves. And I think that's where we have to start, is that we're not in relationships, that word, I know that everybody says that we're relational people. So it's about the relational relationship and not the parental, that's how we are. We're all together. We're all a nucleus and touching each other in this universe. And I think that people look at relationships like roles, you're the mother, you're the father, you're the wife, you're the husband, instead of it being like, it's just relational. We're all just trying to figure this out together. And I don't have all the answers. I hope I never do,
Right.
because that would be pretty boring if I was the one that had all the answers.
Right.
But I'm willing and open-minded enough to learn every day and, strive for my 1%. It's not a lot. It's just that 1%. And it's that stop of the trigger, that stop of the rolling of the eyes or picking a fight or being triggered into a fight. It's that type of thing that we could do better as parents and as people.
Right. Right. Oh, thanks for that. And thank you for sharing your experience as well. So just in reading a little bit about you and this transformation that you experienced moving from this quote unquote perfect performative practices to being in alignment. How did you do that? What do you want people to know about that? How is that how are you helping your clients? All of those good.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So mine again was my 4 year ago kind of transition into things. And I think it started with like I said, we all have these aha moments and we keep having them until we pause and say, okay, not, not this again. It's, oh, what am I learning from this again? Like, what am I trying to, why do I keep doing the same thing, or why does the same thing keep happening? And it doesn't have to be the same instance like deja vu, but you have little aha moments that say, oh, I could have handled that better, or I could have done things differently. And mine was just as simple. I was a college athlete and a high school athlete and nothing, I grew up back east, and field hockey is a big
Yes.
sport in New England, and I played it hard and competitively for a long time. And I was proud of myself and the level that I played at. And when I was an adult, 4 years ago, I stopped playing, and, you let yourself go. COVID happened. We all ate too many carbs. We didn't move as much. We all used COVID as an excuse. And so I ended up, running next door literally to help a neighbor with an emergency that they were having. And I couldn't run the 100 yards from driveway to driveway
Oh, wow.
without bending over and gasping for air. And as somebody who prided themselves on, I was always thin, but I was never, at that point in my life, I was never in shape, right? So there's a difference between, you just carry your weight differently, so you just become thicker. And so I was in the driveway catching my breath, being disgusted with myself, because again, we're of service. We want to help as much as we can and be a provider in any way we can, especially with someone we love that's in need. And I couldn't go in the house because I couldn't catch my breath. And I ended up being disgusted with myself. And I did eventually catch my breath and help where I was needed and wanted in the house. But on my way back, again, that 100 yards, And a field hockey field is 100 yards. And I ran that again a million times. It sounds like an exaggeration, but you literally, every practice, every game back and forth, through high school and college and club thereafter. And I took that walk home disgusted with myself and disgusted with how I couldn't perform at the level that I wanted to, how I wasn't physically where I wanted to be,
Right.
how where I wasn't mentally, but I was on the outside, I still looked and presented this image that I was. And so I made a quick choice with my alignment, head, heart, and gut, saying, change. And instead of brushing it off and saying, oh, it's Thursday, I'll wait till, the first of the month, or I'll wait till whatever the next date was, that people start at, I went in the house and joined a gym and got myself back to where I wanted to be as far as, age appropriate health and lifestyle. And so it's those moments that you have to have an aha moment, and hopefully not as, anything of harm or drama or trauma, that you can just look at it and say, all right, I hear you. And I think I remember that day so clearly. My father has passed, and at that time he was gone as well. I remember saying to him, up in heaven or wherever he is, like, okay, daddy, I got it. Like, I hear you. Like, I got it. This is the aha moment. This is the change and the catalyst. And it was just pure disgust. And I hope my life is hard enough. I hope people can learn from me and my experiences, that I hope they never have to get themselves to that level of disgust without, having change. But sometimes we do, and it's all relative. People's rock bottoms are relative.
Right. And we can edit this out if you wish. Your story is so touching to me. And what is more poignant to me than you not being able to catch your breath is the feeling of disgust. It feels so strong, and it feels so like that word is hurting my heart on your behalf to, and I know that, like, it's our story and we tell the story the way we tell the story. And then, so I obviously, you joined a gym and did that. How did you move from the trauma of feeling disgust for and at yourself to where you are now?
I think you move there slow and steadily. I think you move there. I think everybody looks at a goal and it's the end result. I want to lose this much weight. I want to, you have to chunk it out. You have to look at it like a project plan, like anything you would do in your time. And you have to say, okay, yeah, we always want to think with the end in mind. And I know the person I have the capability of being. So what am I going to choose every single day to make that change? It's okay. I'm going to get up earlier. I'm not going to choose the meals that I was choosing. I'm going to go to the gym. It's the little, I believe, and I think if everybody can, it would be great. And hopefully we can help people get there, that small steps can lead to huge progress.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to say, my goal wasn't to run a marathon. that was not attainable, right? My goal was to make better decisions every day and do that for myself. So be less triggered in, family situations, be cognitive and conscientious of how I was presenting myself, but also how I was receiving things, so that I wouldn't get pulled into, unhealthy patterns. So it seemed like it was a lot of like picking up eggs on Easter. It was like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to, and at the end, you have an abundance of changes that you made. But you have to start with your basket, and you have to acknowledge that it's empty, and you have to look at it again, a visual, like, okay, it's not heavy now. And the stuff that I'm putting in, everything equals the same weight. It's just the collective that feels heavy. So if you go around, if you pick up a basket in your wheat and it's full of eggs, yeah, it's going to seem heavy and awkward, and you may drop some, and they may crack on the ground and cause trauma and drama for whoever it affects. But if you pick it up and you place and you plan and you put them in the pile in the order or in the angle that you want them to, you can carry a lot. I mean, I believe that we're only allotted that many eggs because that's all we can carry. Right. And sometimes we have to put down eggs, right? Sometimes we say, oh, your relationship with your past, your husband, or you say, oh, I'm not gonna, you're not in my basket today. And that's okay. I'll get back to you when I need to, and you have to put things down. You can only carry so much. And people, I think as mothers and as women, we tend to take our basket and everybody else's basket like we're taking our groceries in the house, and we dump them on the kitchen counter and things spill, and then we're like, oh, now that's a job, that's a mess. But instead of, if we do it calculated and we do it with thought and with care and kindness and planning, we can carry a lot. And if we can't, we put it down with kindness and say, this is your basket. I'll watch you. I'll guide you, my son. I'll help you. I'll help you choose your eggs and make sure they're not spoiled and rotten, but that's yours. And if you need help, I'll be there, but I can't carry it all the time for you.
Sure.
So I think it's that mindset of that we have to, as women, mothers, spouses, executives, that we feel the load and the burden to carry everything. And I think that's what we need to just take a deep breath and say, I'm going to acknowledge that that's mine, and I'll carry it with clarity and with understanding and compassion. But I'm also going to acknowledge that this is yours, and I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to help wherever I can. It's like raising a child in the old, prior, parenting books and all of that. It was, you raise them to be independent. And I believe we raise our children to be interdependent. We raise them to know that they can be independent on their own, but that we're here for them to support them when they pivot and need help carrying their basket. So I think that's what I would, again, look for visuals. Those are my little metaphors.
Right.
Try to splice in. So.
No, I love it. I love it. And it's just, I'm glad that the language toward yourself softened, as well as your body becoming healthy as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think we're our own worst critics, right? We hear whatever the critic was that we were raised with, a mother, a father, a sibling, whatever it was, a teacher, a priest, or whatever. We hear that creeping up, and we have to just say, and that's talking to the little girl, the little boy. We have both inside of us, and we have to just say, okay, little girl, little Kathleen, I understand that sounds hurtful, but I'm going to take it from here. Like I'm gonna step in front of you, and I'm gonna acknowledge your thoughts, but I'm not gonna let you lead, because they lead with pouting and tantrums and reactive behavior and those trigger points that worked well for them, right? At
Sure.
that age, we all are manipulators, right? That's human. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but we all do things to get the reward that we want.
Right.
And until we don't get it, then that's the only way we change, right? Is when we find that we say, oh, that didn't work. So now what am I going to do? So yeah, I think the inner critic is nice to turn the volume down. So
Right. And give it some new language,
that's a great way to put it.
because it doesn't go away.
Right.
Yeah. It's fascinating work, and it's amazing, this opportunity that we have to coach and guide and hold space for people that are wanting support in becoming their highest and best. We all have work to do. And so often we teach what we need to learn. And, this work that I'm doing is for me personally. It's certainly for me professionally, and it's for me in raising Amelia, and it's for me in reparenting myself, and it's for me in being a model to my mother as well. And it just is the integration of all of it for everyone in our environment. It's really beautiful, and it's inspiring to me to know that these changes, we're not doing any of this on our own.
Right. And I think until we can turn down the volume and accept people, I had a trying relationship with my mother my whole life. I didn't perform the way she wanted me to because I didn't lead the life that she thought I should. It doesn't mean I lived a bad life or leaded a bad life, certainly, but always I was a little bit more independent and headstrong than she would have liked. And until I realized and paused to stop changing her and trying to get her to be the person I wanted and needed to be, and when I realized that she had the tools and the knowledge and the experience that she had at that point in her life, that's the only time that I became to have a peaceful way within my childhood, was to finally accept her and just say, hey, you weren't the mother that I needed or wanted, and my expectations might have been too high and maybe I didn't explain them, and same with you, with me as your daughter, but I'm not gonna fight you anymore. I'm not gonna be a rebellious teen, through my 50s or through my 40s. So
Right.
yeah, so I just, again, I just didn't let her trigger me, and I'm sure by my not trigger me, I didn't trigger her. We didn't have the same conflict all the time, so it was nice. I wish it would have happened. The last 4 years of her life, she has now passed, but at least I had those. I think I wish, part of me was like, oh, why couldn't I have done that 10 years before? We could have had 10 years, but at least, when she passed, I knew that I was at peace with my relationship with her. And I felt the same with her, that she knew, like, it was like that aha moment, and you're like, oh, I wasn't ready for her to go because I wanted more of the aha moment, but at least I had it.
Yeah.
So,
That's really beautiful. Thank you for
uh,
sharing that.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It starts with yourself. I mean,
yeah.
as much I used to kid in a tone, say to her, like, Mom, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Me being the toothpaste, like, she can't make me be somebody I'm not. And then I finally was the aha moment, like, I can't make her be somebody she's not either.
Right.
Like we all have these toolboxes, we all have these Easter baskets, and we only have the tools, if we stay with that analogy or that metaphor, the tools that's inside of them. Yeah, I have lots of tools. And there was a period of my time where the only tool I chose was the hammer. Even though I had screwdrivers and I had, everything else and, all kinds of other tools that I could have used, I chose the hammer, and I was just going to knock my way and convince everybody with that hammer because that was the tool that tended to serve me. Be the
Right.
loud, be the forceful, be the controlling person. And then I was like, oh, look at that shiny new screwdriver. Maybe I'll
Right.
turn it through instead of trying to nail it into something.
Right. Because as we started the conversation, our magnet is always working.
Right.
So we're having experiences that aren't what we want. We need to check to see what we're attracting because it doesn't get it wrong.
Right. I have this assessment that on my website at Chasing Purpose, and it's an emotional baseline assessment that I created. It's 13 questions, super easy, super quick. And it's not wrong or right, but it's a linear scale from 1 to 100 and I'll just talk about it in high level. So when we graduated, I'm looking at you because you're probably close to my age and, certainly have some commonalities as we found out. But as I graduated college and I lived under the emotional influence of my family or my mom, and I moved away and started to spread my wings, my emotional baseline at that time was probably like a 5
Okay.
because I was so emotionally inexperienced. I
Sure.
was so, emotionally, I want to say stunted, but stunted is the word that comes to my mind. So I'll use it. And so then he started a career and he started to see other people from other areas of the country and other lives and eat other food, you start to rank up, gauge that up. And so you meet people, as you and I have just met, at a different level.
Yeah.
You still love the people, your family or whoever it is, or boyfriends or at the time friends that you've met along the line that are still at that 5 level of baseline, the
Mhm.
friendlies, right? The friendlies that we have. It doesn't mean that we have to have long, vulnerable relationships with them. Right.
Right.
So we move along the patterns by, increasing our knowledge, increasing our circle of influence, increasing, our what we read and our cultures that we experience. So there's that emotional baseline. Again, a vibration. It's just another, because it's visual again. It's just this thing of where are you and where are the people that you love? And it's okay that I love somebody who's a 5, and it's okay that I love somebody that's an 80.
Right.
It's okay. You can love everybody on the scale. It's just, where are you? And if you want to increase your baseline, how do you do it? Because as you increase, you'll bring in, as you and I just have, bringing other people at the same baseline or a higher baseline that pull you up.
Oh, I love that. My gosh. Well, and thank you for mentioning it. Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, how they can take the quiz, all the good things.
Yeah, so chasingpurpose.com is the website. You can take the assessment there. It's free. You can also schedule a discovery call if you want to, and I can help you get your path. And I also have a weekly podcast that's on Women for Women Network. It's on w4wn.com. It airs live on Tuesdays, so 1 o'clock East Coast, but you can find it linked up there. My old episodes are up there. I just started, so I'd love to have you follow me and subscribe to the sites as well. And then I'm on all the social media. Most of it is Chasing Purpose, either with coaching or Chasing Purpose show. But you can also find me. You'll find me. I'm out there. I hope you do.
Yes, we will link everything down in the show notes. But thank you so much, Kathleen.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll have to do more of it. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.